So first, let's create a new script and call it something like engineering 3 section 2 data. Cool. So because since the topic of this is this week is iteration. So for iteration, there are like usually two types of two implementation. One is like for loop, right? And the syntax for loop is usually like for a variable from like start to end, and then we do something. And then it's end. So end is like the form, the syntax for in Matlab. Another thing we usually do is while loop, right? So for while loop, it's while condition, right? We usually give a provider condition, and then we also do something. Let's put a tab here for better visualization. Do something, and then end. Right? Before that, like since we need some condition here, we usually need some initialization in while loop. Initialization. Okay, so this is the basic like template for loop and while loop. Every time you wanna you write some program, you can think of this format, right? Okay, so let's directly look into some problems. First problem is this. So it's a for loop which display the first 10 multiplies of 7. And yeah, let me copy this to the chat box for you guys. You can copy this comment to your own MATLAB scripts. And yeah, I'll leave like half a minute for you guys to think about this. And if you want to talk about like how to like, yeah, if you have thoughts on this, you can directly unmute yourself and talk about it. So let's do this together. So for we need a for loop. Let's look at the template here. So we need a variable called I, and I may be from 1 to 10 since display the first 10, and then we display 7 times I, right? And end. That's it. And let's run it. See? Okay, so this is our result, right? So okay, so I think this example is just a warm-up. It's quite straightforward, and since we have already learned something last week about for loops, so I think this is not so hard. So based on that, let's think about this one. Can we modify this code here, and so that like it counts backward from 6 to 2 in increments of 0.2. Let me copy this again into the chat box. So actually this is simple, right? So we just do for I equals, since we need to count backward from 6 to 2, we need to do 6 to 2. And the further step here is 0.2, so we do, actually it's negative 0.2 because it's backward, right? So let's say minus 0.2. Right, so this is the way to to specify the range for loop. And then we display 7 times I again. And, right. So here, if you look at this double percentage sign, this is the way to create a new section, right? So the section is helpful when you write like a long code here. So if you wanna only focus on this part without running the other parts, you can directly run this section, right? Let's do it again. Clear. So the way to create a section is to put a double percentage sign before the section, and then you can, if you click on here, you can find the specific section to be yellow, right? And then you can, if we run this one, you can click this run section. So we only run this part without touching this part. Okay. Okay, cool. So let's move on to the next example. So can we create a for loop to find the sum of the first 100 natural numbers? I'll leave you like half a minute for you guys to think about this. If you know how to do it, please unmute yourself and talk with us. Oh, let me copy this into the. Okay, so basically we use a for loop, right? So for I from 1 to 100, and we do something here. So what do we do? Because we want to keep track of the sum, right? So let me create a variable called result. Maybe you will ask, like, why don't you call it sum? The reason is there is already a sum here in Matlab. If you help sum, you can see sum is a built-in function in Matlab. So we usually don't create something like that's already built in Matlab in order not to confuse it, right? So we call something else. I think that's something to keep in mind when you do some coding in Matlab. Just try not to use some functions you already know, which has been built in Matlab, right? So for result here, for I in result, we do something is result equals result plus I. And let's look at the result here. We run section, so the result is this. Okay. Right. Any questions so far? So please let me know if you think like the speed is it's too fast or too slow or too easy or too hard. You can let me know in the chat box. Cool. After finishing this one, let's think about, can we do it in use a while loop? So we have like practiced a lot, several examples here in using for loop. So can we do this use a while loop? Yeah, just feel free to unmute yourself if you wanna share us with your answer or something. Okay, I think it's the same thing, right? So let's first copy the template for while loop here. Although this is the bad habit, but the reason I copied this is I want to show you guys how the template or how each of the while loop looks like each other, right? So since we already have the for loop here, we can in order to show the similarity between for loop and while loop, I like to copy those stuff before we write anything, right? So first initialization, let's copy this guy, right? Because we need the result, so we definitely need to initialize it, right? Result equals this. And how about the condition here? Let's say we use a while loop and we need a condition. I, let's say smaller than 100. So since we use I here, we need to initialize it also, right? I is 0. And then we do something. So what is, and of course we need add, right? So what is the something we do here? So first we need to I equals I plus 1. Result is result plus I. Right? Because this is the same with here. And the only difference is this condition, this initialization, and this increment by 1. Because that already happened in the for loop here. For the I is incrementing by 1 from 1 to 100. And after that, we can say result. Okay, so yeah, let's run this and check whether we get the same answer. Yeah, so we have the same answer with the for loop, right? Any questions so far? Cool. So yeah, we finished, we implemented this question for use for loop and while loop, right? Then we come to the question like, which is better? Which one is shorter? And which one provides a better or more elegant solution for while loop? Anyone volunteers to answer this? Which one is better? Workspace. So if we look at the length of these two scripts, definitely for loop is shorter, right? So because for this case, we know how many iterations we want to iterate. So it's 100 times. And like for loop is built in for that. But for while loop, we need to initialize that and do something in the iteration. Right, okay, so, okay, let's move on to the next question, next example. Okay, so let's say we have a sequence defined by this formula, and S0 is 3. And then we want to construct a while loop to find the the first number in the sequence with an absolute value greater than 100. Let me copy this into the chat window. And I'll give you guys 1-2 minutes to think about this. And if you have like solutions, you can directly unmute yourself and talk about that. Any volunteers? Okay, so since we need to write a while loop, let's copy this template here. Okay. It's not a good idea to copy code from everywhere, but the reason I'm just trying to show you guys how the how like the common parts for each of the code for, let's say, a while loop or for loop, right? But in reality, like if you write something, try not to copy a lot from other places, because that will also confuse yourself. So for here, first we need to do initialization. What's the initialization here? I think this is some kind of initialization, right? So let's make a variable called x equals 3. Now you might ask, why don't you use s? So because the reason is, like, s here is it's a sequence, but x is a variable. I don't want to confuse like people about like how they are similar and how they are different. So after we have the initialization, then we do the while condition, right? So what's the condition here? So here, the absolute value greater than 100, right? Here we can see we saw a condition. Let's write that into the condition here. this is larger than, greater than 100, and then end, right? And then we do something here. So what's something here? I think this is something, right? Because of course we need to update this as n to be x. And then because we want to find the first number, so at last we want to print x here. So let's think about this. So this is the formula we use, and this is the condition, and this is the initialization. So do you think this code is correct now? Please type 1 if you think this is correct. And then you can type a 2 if you think this is incorrect. Or you can type 3 if you think I don't know, like it's confusing, it's too hard. Okay, I saw a lot of people typing 2 here, so why? Anyone wants to talk about why? Or you can, if you're too shy, you can type like the reason why. Okay, I saw Jacob say like this, my condition is wrong. Yeah, and actually that's right. So yeah, because exactly. So the condition here is like when we meet this condition, we can enter this while loop, right? So for this case, if we put an absolute f(x) is larger than 100, so actually we can never enter this while loop, right? So we have to do something like absolute number, because the output, we need it to be greater than 100, and then we actually need the opposite of that to be the condition here, which is smaller and equal to, right? Okay, let's run our code and see how it goes. So this is our result. So which means -116 is the minimum, or the first number in the sequence with an absolute value greater than 100. Okay, cool. So now we have a while loop solution, and we talk about like the similarity and difference between for and while loops. So then the next question is, can we use a for loop to do the same thing? I'll leave you guys like 2 more minutes to think about that. And if you think if you think you can do that, you can like either unmute yourself to talk about that, or you can also like copy your code into the chat box. I think it's helpful to everyone if you can share your thoughts and your implementation, because everyone learns from like debugging and from new ideas. Yeah, for coding, we definitely need more practice. That's why like we have this section and we like lead you guys to do some real coding. Although it's like online or remote coding, but it's still helpful like if we can share your own ideas or your own implementations. Yeah, actually the best way to learn code is to debug some code. Okay, let's do this together. So yeah, as we like previously we defined, let's copy the template here. So first, the answer to this is, can we do this? The answer is definitely yes, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't put like so much time to wait for a no, right? And in reality, most of the while loops can be rewritten or implemented as a for loop. Like most of the cases that like those, for example, for this one, the for and while are kind of interchangeably, but that doesn't mean they share the same complexity. So for this example, for loop is shorter, right, and it provides a better or more elegant solution. Let's look at this one. For variable. So first, let's do something like okay, let's write for I equals something, right? Start to end. And end. So what's the start and end here? And then like, and we do something, right? Let's do something. Do something first we can think of is like we do this. We directly copy this here, right? And also, if we want to do this, we need to initialize before we start the for loop, right? So x is also equal to 3, like here. So basically, we just copied the things from here to here. And finally, we want to see x. Okay, so let's say this end is not good, right? Let's think about what's the start and end. Right? Let's start from 1. Let's say start is 1. How about end? Can I make it like 100? Is that good? Another thing is, since we have this condition, right? We have a condition in the while loop. Let's think about how to do that. So for the, we have several questions here. Like, the first question is, what's the end? What should be the right start and end? And the next question is, where should we put this condition here, right? So for condition in the for loop, since we don't have a place to put it like this, we can think about an if statement, right? Yes, we usually use an if statement. Then we can copy this if this happens, then we do this. So it seems we already we already included everything here. And then we come to the question of like, how should we choose this start and end? Should we choose like 100, 110, 50, or infinite, or something like 5? Yeah. Anyone wants to talk about what's the best start here, start and end here? You can also type into the chat box if you don't want us to hear your voice. So what should be good? Let's say start is 1, right? So what's a good end here? I didn't see any response. Is this too hard or 100? Andrew, you want to talk about why 100 is the best one, you think? Can I choose 101?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so I just think that 100 is good because it's a big number and it'll probably accomplish the task in time, because if we use like infinity, then it'll take too long, I think.
Okay, then why don't we take 101?
I don't think it matters as long as it's like a big number, right?
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. So, anyone has different opinions, or we all agree 100 is the best one? Since I wrote it here, you guys think let's do this. Let's write a 5 here and put 100 here. Right. So what I wrote here doesn't mean that's the best one. So let's run this code, okay? Let's run this section and see what you have. So we got a minus 5.8794. What do you guys think? How about we try 100? Okay, 100 seems to output the same solution as we add the while loop, right? About 30. Okay, 30 seems to also give us the right solution. Okay, so actually, to be honest, in order to get this, ideally, I think infinite should be the right answer, because we actually don't know how many iterations we actually need to meet this requirements, right? Because like we just did, we have to try to see like whether we have to try whether 30 works or whether 50 works or whether 100 works. So, but that's not the right way to write a code, right? So, so we actually need to do a lot of times, do a lot of iterations to find the one that meets the requirements. But if we put an infinite here, this for loop can never end, right? That's very bad. Like Matlab can consume a lot of memories. If you let's say you run Matlab, it's already consuming some amount of memories. If you keep a for loop running forever, then it can kill your computer actually. Maybe not this code, but for a complicated code, it can make your computer die. So how do we deal with that? So in order to do that, we will introduce a thing called break. Like this. So this means like if the statement, if the requirements is met like this, then we update the value of x. And if we already find the, because we only need the first number, right? If we already meet this, the value greater than 100, then we break. So break means we break out of this for loop. So I think we will talk about this in the lecture in the maybe following 1 or 2 weeks, but this is the right way to, so the short answer to this question is 100 is not the best solution, right? Because that's a number we guessed. We don't know how it should be, right? Okay, let's run this again. Ooh. 59. Oh. Or if this is smaller than this, we do about 100. Okay, so for 100, it's like this. And how about for infinite? One section. Stack. Okay, so here we find it give us a warning like too many for loops, but it stopped. So we have the same result here. Okay, after we have the while loop and for loop, so we can think about another question like which like similar to the previous example. So since we already have the for loop and while loop solution, right? So which one is shorter? And which one provide a better or more elegant solution? I think the answer is obvious, like, right? So the while loop is way shorter than this one. And the reason is because for this specific case or problem, we have a condition to end the loop. So let's go back to this one. So for this one, we know how many iterations we want to do. It's like 100 iterations. But for this one, we don't know. We only have a condition to break out of the loop, right? So the one concise conclusion for this is like if we know how many exactly loop we want to iterate, then we use for. And if we have a condition to enter the loop or break the loop, then we use a while. So for this answer is like while loop is shorter. Okay, so before we end, let me introduce the exercise for you guys to think about. Okay, let's think about this question. compute 1 divided by I till the result is less than this, and print out this I. So in Matlab, how we represent this is the 1e 3. One e minus 3 is interesting. Anyone wants to talk about how to solve this? Okay, okay, let's solve this together. So let's first think about whether we should use a for or while here. Let's say let me first use a while loop to do this, because we see a condition here, but we didn't see like how many exact iterations we want to run, right? So let me first write a while loop. While loop, while 1 divided by I is less than, let's say less than 1e minus 3. And then since I use I here, I need to do some initialization, like I equals 1. And here I do something I need to increment, right? And so let's go back to this condition. So we want to find something that I1 divided by I is less than this. So let's say when I is 1, this is definitely larger than this, right? So actually the condition should be the inverse of this, which is larger or equal to. And finally we print out I. Let's run this section and we find the right answer here. Okay, so yeah, I think that's it for today.